covered our enhancement part, our new ABAP syntaxes, and we saw the changes SAP made in both the ABAP programming and SQL programming. Now we will move on to our HANA part, and here we will start our HANA. So tell me, Ellen, what do you know about it?
That it uses an in-memory database, the S4
What do you
HANA
understand about
database.
in-memory?
So this database is in a in the RAM, also in the random access memory. So this is a
Okay.
very fast memory.
Why?
And because it's not on a hard drive itself, but it's in the read access memory, and there the operations can be done a lot faster.
Okay, that's good. Mukul, what is your opinion about this database?
Yeah, I think I don't know much about it, but what I know from the last sessions is that it's very fast and it's very efficient in storing and retrieving data.
All right, let's find out what is HANA, why HANA. So first question is, what is HANA? So HANA stands for high performance analytical appliance. First thing, high performance analytical appliance. Now what does it mean? It means that it is an SAP's in-memory database. We will see everything. So what is the meaning of being a in-memory database? Here, what does it mean of being an in-memory database? So an in-memory database, or you can also call it IMDB in-memory database, is a database that stores data in computer's main memory. Computer's main memory, like RAM, instead of storing it on the hard disk. So an in-memory database is similar to a normal database. It is also a database, but instead of storing all the data on the hard disk, this is going to simply store the data on RAM itself. Now the question here is, why this HANA called as an appliance, not why it is being called as appliance but not a database? Since it is a database, why SAP is calling it a appliance? Very important question. Why HANA is called an appliance but not a database? We are calling it an appliance. Yeah, tell me.
Is it because of this code push down technique? That means
that
that
is
you
a
can.
feature. That is a feature. That has nothing to do with this appliance. That is just a feature.
Okay.
Okay. So what you see here is HANA is not only a software. First thing, if you're thinking that it is just a simple software, no, it's definitely not. It is not only a software. What is HANA is? HANA is a combination of both the software and hardware. It is a combination of both the software and hardware. So let's say if I say that I want to install HANA, I want to install HANA, I cannot directly install it. Not that easy. not directly install it. It requires a specialized hardware, certified by a specialized hardware certified by SAP for installation of HANA. It requires a specialized hardware certified by SAP for installation of HANA. That is why it's called an appliance. And it is not called a software. If it would be a normal software, you can call it directly database, but it is both the combination of software and hardware. That's why we do not directly call it a DB, but instead we call it a appliance. Now the question here is, I explained this HANA DB, why it is so popular. Today, every SAP personality must want to master this HANA database or want to work on this HANA database. Nobody wants to work on ECC. Everybody is migrating on HANA DB. Why? So why HANA is so popular? Is so important and more popular in the world. Why HANA is so important and more popular in the world? What is the reason behind it? So let's talk about our traditional databases, and then we will discuss about our HANA database. So first I will discuss our traditional database, also known as RDBMS. You might have heard about it, right, Alan? Mukul?
Yes, relational
So
database
yeah,
management system.
perfect. So most of the systems, traditional systems till today, traditional system till today, which we call RDBMS, that is relational database management system, data in the hard disk. They stores the data in the hard disk. So if we want to process the data, we will have to bring it from the hard disk to RAM, and then from RAM to CPU for processing it. That is the major problem. So here if you see, this is my CPU, and this CPU is further connected with random access memory, and then it is then connected with the hard disk. So if you have to transfer that, this is the major storage of data in case of our relational database management system. Here the major storage of data is hard disk only, where your actual data is stored. And if you want to perform any operation, we know our CPU is the brain of the computer, where all the performance or actions are done. So CPU is the processor here. So data is simply brought from hard disk to random access memory, and then this this RAM is connected with the CPU, and this CPU is the one who is going to perform the operation. So what is the drawback of RDBMS? Or so I can say that it takes a lot of time. But if I have to bring data, let's say if we have to bring millions of data from hard disk to RAM to CPU, definitely it is going to take some time. So it takes lots of time to bring the data from the hard disk to random access memory, and because of this, the performance of the relational database management systems, RDBMS systems, decreases. Because of this, the performance of our relational database management system simply decreases. Okay. Now, if I talk about my HANA database, HANA DB, how it is different from our traditional systems. So let's discuss that part, how SAP made innovation and all these things. So in 2015, SAP came up with an idea that we are going to store all the active data in the RAM only. Very, very important. Instead of storing them into the hard disk, we are directly going to store all the active data. Here active, all the active data. Here active data simply means the data which is being used from last 10 years, like the data which is in which has been used at least once from last 10 years, or let's say 15 years. But those data which are not being used from last 10 years, 15 years and 20 years, those data are not essential for us. We can store them into hard disk, there will not be any problem. So all our active data will be there in the RAM only. That is what your in-memory database is all about. In-memory database. Then by default, since all the data will be on the RAM itself, it can directly work transferred on CPU for the execution, right? So then by default, the efficiency of the SAP system started to increase, right? Started to increase. Okay. So how was it possible? Like I am saying it very easily that yes, SAP came with this RAM and we started to use, my performance got increased. So was it so easy? No, definitely not. The RAM is very costly even till today. So how was possible? How was it possible for SAP to came up with this approach? Because RAM is very costly, right? RAM was very costly, and it was not easy for any one of us. It was not easy for even SAP also. If you see that, let's take example of our normal phone which we are using. So you will find out the RAM will be around 8 GB or maybe max to max 16 GB. But if you check your hard drive in your mobile system, you'll find out that the memory is 126 GB or maybe 256 GB also, right? This is the current mobile phones which we are using. So if we compare with RAM and hard disks are not that costly. So it is really easy for everyone. So how SAP came with this approach? Because if I'm talking about SAP's database, we are going to store millions, billions of data. So we will definitely need a very big storage. So how is it possible for SAP to come up with this approach? The region here, innovations happening in the hardware and software in the market ultimately led SAP to come up with this approach. The innovations that were happening in the market ultimately led SAP to come up with this approach. What were those innovations? So first one is your hardware innovation. Let's discuss that. Then we'll also see the software innovation also. So hardware innovation, what were the innovation that led that, and the software innovation. Hardware and software innovation. What we see is over the period of time, the cost of memory came down drastically. the cost of memory came down drastically. What does it mean here? So the cost of memory came down drastically. That is, if I take example, let's say over around 10 years ago, if I would have tried to buy a 2 gigabyte of memory for my mobile system, it was costly. But in the same price today, I can buy more than 16 or 32 gigabyte of memory, right? So over the period of time, the cost of memory came down drastically. Then also lots of innovations were happening. For example, ability, or over the period of time, the memory devices became capable of storing a large amount of data into a very small space. Best example will be, let's say, if I see 2 gigabyte memory, or if I see 32 gigabyte memory, both of them have the same size. Almost both of them have the same size. We can store the same amount of data. So with period of time, what happened was, lots of big organization, big companies like Intel, Sony, Intel, Sony started building memories which are equal to size of our nails, but they can store terabytes of space. That is what is available, right? Terabytes of space, which led to reduction of memory prices. This was the innovation happening in the market, right? Also, what we see is multi-core CPU came into picture. So multi-core CPU came into picture. That is ability to perform more than or multiple operations within a single CPU, because it is a multi-core. It is a multi-core, and each core is capable of performing more than one performing operations on their own. This was also one innovations happening in the market, right? Each core was capable of performing one operation on their own. This also led SAP to came with this idea, right? Lots of power backup devices were also came into market. Lots of powerful power backup devices. Came into market to restore data in case of power failure, right? This was also being built. Power failure. This also helped SAP a lot. Then if I talk about some software innovations happening in the market, so here you see compression, very important. Compression, that is, we can compress the data and then we can store it. Best example will be zip file. We can compress the data and then we can store it into a less amount of space without causing any loss of data. So even compression do not causes any loss of data. So this was a new feature which was introduced in case of our memory. Then you might have heard storing data in column store and row store. Storing data in column store and row store. So this was also another concept which was introduced with HANA. This was coming into market. This was our very important concept. Today we will see that one also. Let's move on. So data aging was also there. Data aging. So the data which is not used for a very long period of time becomes the dead data or dead data or old data. So that data is by default, or that data can be by default stored on the hard disk instead of main memory, right? They can be by default stored on the hard disk instead of main memory. There is no need of that. So this lots of features were coming into market. So all these combined together with these innovations that is hardware and software. So hardware and software happening in the market helped SAP to come up with a approach so that all the active data can be stored directly into the RAM itself, and can be used by the central processing unit CPU for processing, right? So as a result, the overall performance of the HANA DB is very very high if we compare with the traditional databases. Is it clear what is happening here?
Yes.
Right. So this is the main reason, this is the behind logic how everything is working. By default I cannot open the database and show all these features, right? Because this is the architecture and kind of stuff they have built that, but this is the actual thing which is happening in the background, and that is why this is so popular. Okay, I used one concept here, where it is, yeah, row store versus column store. This is a very important interview question also. Row store versus column store. In HANA DB. First let's understand that row store versus column store. So first row store, then we will see the column store. First row store. So let's take example. Let's say I want to store some sales order data which includes sales order number, then sold to party number, then material number. All these things I want to store: material number, amount, currency also. So these 5 columns I want to store. and I am using the concept of a row store. That is, within a row I will try to store all the records, and if it will if the row is getting finished, we will move on to next row, right? So let's say I'm storing 5 or 6 records. So first record 1000, let's say sold to party 1, material number 1, right? Then let's say some amount 500. Okay, let's give one more space so that we can distinguish it. Then the currency US dollar. So one row completed. Since we are following the row store, we can store multiple records here also if we are getting some space. So I'll go for next record 1001, sold to party 2, material number let's say 2, some amount let's say 600, and then US dollar. So now let's say my row is finished, so we'll move on to next row. But here I'm just taking an example. We are going to write up to our row is getting completed. Okay, so this is one row. Then I will copy it and I'll create one more row. One row, let's say one more row, and I will change it to just 3. What it is 2. This will become 3. Let's make it 4, and let's make it 5. So this is just a demo data which I have stored using row store concept. So every column I am going to store in the same row until my one row will be completed. Then I'll move on to the next one. Now here we have got 6 records. Okay, the data is stored using the row store concept. Now the question here is, I want to find out the total sales amount. This is what I want to find out. What is the total sales amount? How much product we have sold? How much product we were able to sell? So here I will start from my sales order, then I will go to the next column, right? Sold to party, then material number, then I will find the amount. So this is my first amount. Then I will move on to next one, next one, next one, next one, and then I will find the next amount, right? I will go for next one, then next one, next one, next one, then I will find the third, right? This is how I will find all the my amount values, right? Are you getting my point? This is how you will find the amount values now.
Yes.
So here what we can see is, even if I just want to perform a single operation on a particular column, I will have to scan each I will have to scan each field and its value, right? Even if we are just looking for a single column, we are going for each and every field. Definitely we are going for each and every field. So this is a disadvantage, every field. So here what I can say is, so the overall operation becomes very costly, right? Very costly and time consuming. This is my row store. Now if I talk about the column store, just think on it. Same question. If I am changing it to column store, how situation will change here? If we are talking about the column store, how situation will change? So the same amount of data, let's just copy it and paste it here. But this is, since it is a column store, this record will move on to the next one, right? Only one record will be there. Now column store, so one column at a time, right? See, this is one column at a time. This is how it will be stored, right? This is how we will store one column at a time for our column, our data in a particular columns. columns. This is how you are going to store it now. One column, second column, third column, fourth column, fifth column, right? Now again I have a question. What is the total sales amount? What is the total sales amount? Now how you will find out the total sales amount? You will go for this one, you will go for this one, you will go for this one, and you will go for this one. Now you found your column number, right? Then you can directly go for this column 500, 600, 500, 600, 500, 600, right? And you can directly perform the operation on this single column. Are you able to understand what I'm trying to explain here?
Yes.
Yes, it's much easier this way.
So if I have to perform a operation on a particular column, we will not have to scan each field. We will not have to scan each field. Here I am not scanning anything. The compiler and SAP system is going to do all these things, but as a developer I am trying to understand which store is more beneficial for us as a SAP developer. So we will not have to scan each field now, right? We will not have to scan each field now. So definitely the overall cost will be less, right? The overall cost will be less. Now just I ask one more question. Let's say if I'm asking one more question here. My question here is select star. What if I'm writing select star, that I want every data, each and every data. If I'm looking for each and every data, so this time what will happen? I need this one also, 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 because I want all the records, right? I want all the records, all the columns together. So at that time scanning each and everything is beneficial. I will go for this one, 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 this one. But here if you talk about column store, how you will scan select star? This, then you will go for next column, this, next column, this, next column, this, next column, this. Then let's move on to second record. So now you again will come to first column. So this one you will go for this, then you will come back, you will go for next column, then this one, you will go for next column, this one, you will go for next column, this one, right? So if I have to calculate select star, so this will become an advantage in case of row store, right? Because I'm looking for all the data. It doesn't matter even if they are stored in row store. I just need all of them together, right? So in that situation this row store will become beneficial. Yeah. So when we have to perform select star on any table, then it will be easier in case of row store as compared to column store. Each storage has some kind of advantages and some kind of disadvantage. Nothing is there which you can say that it is most efficient and better than everyone. If you will talk about HANA database, so you'll call it is very costly, right? It cannot be afforded by everyone. That's why most of the companies are still using ECC system now. HANA is very costly. So everything has its own advantages and disadvantages. The same stuff is there for your row store and column store also. So to understand which store is more beneficial, I just want to know, here I have a question. The question is, how many times we perform select star on any table? Alan, just answer this question to me. How many times we perform select star on any table? If I am opening, let's say, a table, where it is, If I'm opening a table, let's say I'm opening VBAP table, sales order item table, 500 columns are there. How many times you are going to use all these columns in any project? How many you all have worked on any lots of projects, being a functional consultant? Tell me, if we talk about a particular um, any module, do you ever used 500 columns together?
No, that's why we should not use the star, but we should
Yeah,
specify the names of the
yeah.
columns that we need.
So mostly that is the concept now, Mukul, right? We never used that. We never use so many columns together at a single place. So it is completely worthless to write select star on VBAP, right?
Right.
So most of the time, mostly we only want very few columns of any table in any project, right? Very few columns will look, right? And now what you are going to see here is, if we talk about SAP, mostly we, or let's say SAP, around 70% operations, that is a let's say a average which has been calculated by SAP itself. Around 70% of the operations are mainly column specific, are mainly column specific. What did, now just see, 70% and 30%, which one is more? Definitely 70% is more. So definitely this one. So they are column specific. That is what SAP did. That is why when SAP came with this HANA DB, they made every standard table as column store only. Every standard table. Just go and check. Or let's say most of this, or I will say, I don't actually remember the actual record, but every, instead of every, I will write here around 99% will be more accurate. So around 99% of the tables as column store only. If you want, you can go and check VBAP, go for technical setting. Just go for DB specific properties. What is the default store here? Right?
Column.
What is the load unit? Column preferred. Right? So they have definitely turned this into column store only. This is what they are looking for. Right? So if anybody is asking which store we are using in HANA DB, what will be your answer? Column store only, right? Column store only. Now one question came into mind: which store is more beneficial? Beneficial plus, which store is more beneficial for us? Which store is more beneficial us? So what you will see, in most of the cases, in most of the cases, we do not require to use the select star. So it is always more advisable to use the column store database. You have just seen why we do not use the select star. Then what you see, the column store is much better in much better in reading data, aggregate functions. Remember aggregate functions in SQL: max, mean, sum, right, average, etc. 5 are there. So this is really good in using aggregate function. Also in case of column store, we will not have to create any secondary indexes. This is also beneficial. We have also seen that when we created the index, the disadvantage of the index was it was taking some space on the database layer, right? So now with this column store coming into picture, no need to will no longer have not longer have to create the secondary indexes. Why? Because the column itself will work as an index here. This was one beautiful concept. So it saves memory, definitely saves the memory for us. It definitely saves the memory, right? Then in case of column store, there is massive parallel processing. There is massive parallel processing. So overall, with SAP HANA coming into picture, SAP HANA coming into the picture, SAP chose use the column store concept, making HANA as fastest and most efficient databases among all the database for real-time data processing. I believe you all are able to understand how this is so faster, right? So in HANA, you will see most of the standard tables as column oriented only. They all are following as column oriented data column store concept, right? Is this clear?
Yes.
Right. Now let's move on and try to understand how life of an ABAP developer, changes because of HANA. How life of an ABAP developer changes because of this DB. So just think about it. Let's talk about our training that we have seen till now. So what we have seen here, that till now we have seen that we have presentation layer, right? Application layer. This is what we have seen. And the third one is database layer. This is what we have seen, right? So till now what we were doing is, or you can say, I will write it as before HANA DB. So before, what we were doing, let's check that part, then we will see after HANA DB what we will do. So before, we were creating selection screen, right? Creating and using selection screen, right? Selection screen. Then we were writing select star from the database table using internal table, right? I tab, internal table. Then we were looping on the internal table. So we were performing some select data and we were bringing this into the internal table and storing it. Then we were looping on the internal table into work area, right? Then displaying data to ALV or report. And then if I have to perform some operation, we were updating or deleting the records. This is what we usually do, which is my traditional ABAP programming. And at last we were committing the changes into the database, right? This is the thing which we usually do. Are you getting my point?
Mm-hmm.
This concept is also known as data to code paradigm. Interview question: what is data to code paradigm? Where is my data was being stored on the database layer, and if where is my logic part, where is my code written? My code is written on the application layer. So earlier we were simply performing select, we were writing my select query to bring my records directly into the internal table, directly storing it into the internal table. So we were bringing data and storing it into the internal table on the application layer, and then we were performing the operation. So if I explain it a little bit more, we can see most of our logic and processing part, logic part and processing part were happening on the application layer only, and we were using the database layer very less, right? Because I was just bringing the data from the database layer and not performing anything. But now HANA database coming into picture, most efficient database, right? It is very powerful, and this paradigm is also known as data to code paradigm. So this paradigm is also known as data to code paradigm, right? Data to code paradigm. Now let's talk about the after scenario of HANA. So after what happened? So with HANA coming into picture, our purpose has changed. So our purpose has become to use the database layer more efficiently, because we all know HANA is the most powerful database. So if we are not utilizing its all of its feature, then it is completely worthless. Why we have paid so large amount of money for that? So our purpose has changed a little bit. We are going to utilize our database layer more efficiently, and most of the logical and analytical part will happen directly on the database layer. Everything directly on the database layer itself. Okay. Now we all know that HANA-DB is more powerful more powerful and works on multi-core CPU concept or multi-processing concept, not multi-processing concept, right? Works in multi-processing concept, and since data is also there, then it becomes more easier to perform the operation and return the result on the application layer. Here what we are going to now do is, here we will send the input from the application layer, and most of the processing part will be done only and only on the database layer. And that is why HANA has been designed. HANA has been designed for the same purpose, so that it can handle millions of records at the same time. So now the load on our application layer will be very less, and overall the performance will be more of our application, right? So what paradigm this will be called now? Code to data paradigm. Now our code is getting sent directly to the database layer, right? This is what your code push down technique. So I'll write a note here. Now this programming paradigm is called code to data paradigm. This is called code to data paradigm. Here what we will be doing, here we will be pushing our data incentive logic directly on the database layer itself. We have seen that thing also in case of our new ABAP syntax, right? You remember, we were pushing the data directly onto the database layer, right? So all the logical part will be now mostly done on the database layer itself. This is what it is known as code to push down technique. We will pushing the data directly on the database. Is it clear what I'm talking about here?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Move on to the next thing. So how HANA got adopted by the industries? How HANA got adopted by the industries? How HANA got adopted by the industries? Very important question. Yeah, this is not so easy, right? If I have launched a product and I am selling that my product is 100 crores, its cost is 100 crores, will you buy? Definitely you are not going to buy. You will simply say, I'm already using your previous product and I am happy with that. Why should I buy that, right? You cannot directly come into the market and you will say that, yeah, my product will be more faster and more efficient and please buy it. Its cost is just 100 crores. Nobody is going to buy that, right? So what SAP did, SAP provided lots of support. SAP provided lots and lots of supports to their users, and they also given them HANA database connectivity. HANA database connectivity, and they showed the both efficiency. What they said that we will help you to connect with the HANA DB, and parallelly you are going to execute your application on your existing ECC or any let's say traditional database, right? So what SAP did, SAP showed them the performance by show them the performance, the efficiency, the efficiency of HANA DB by comparing it with the existing ECC, which has, let's say, Oracle database, etc. So they showed them the performance, and over the time, some of the big customers of SAP realized the importance of this application, of this software, and they started to migrate on HANA. So you might have heard most of the current SAP projects are only going on migration, right? Everybody is migrating on HANA database. So most of the projects are only going on migration. SAP has told to end the support of the ECC system by 2027. So this is 2025 already, only 2 years, right? So HANA is very crucial for us. Now let's understand what is ABAP on HANA is all about, right? So let's try to understand that part. ABAP on HANA system. ABAP on HANA system. Now I believe it is a pretty clear what is HANA and what is it is all about, what are the features, what is code to data paradigm, what is let's say what was it is column store and row store, right? All of these things are clear. So
Yes.
if I talk about this ABAP on HANA system, what you will see is SAP launched their NetWeaver, yeah, it is correct, NetWeaver 7.4 version, who has the support for direct connectivity. SAP launched their 7.4 version who has the support for direct connectivity of ABAP system with the HANA database. And for that, the minimum version that we need is HANA support pack 6, which was earlier used. Now it has also been updated, SP6. So SAP launched their 7.4 version of the SAP system. That's why when we were discussing about our new ABAP syntax, there I wrote 7.4 and 7.5 version. So 7.4 version coming into picture. SAP has the support of direct connectivity with the HANA database, and they for that they have also given the minimum support pack of HANA was SP6. So sometime we are a little bit confused. We are not able to understand what is HANA, what is BAP on HANA, what is the difference between them, right? So that is something we need to understand. Is ABAP on HANA is the technology. First thing, ABAP on HANA is the technology in which we need the minimum version 7.4 of SAP NetWeaver. SAP NetWeaver. Okay, ABAP on HANA is the technology, and using this technology using this ABAP on HANA technology, lots of solutions were made by SAP. Lots of solutions were made by SAP. So just give me 2 minutes. All right.
Yes.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
it works.
okay. Sorry for the disturbance. So using this ABAP on HANA technology, what SAP did is lots of solutions were made by SAP. You might have heard about, for example, let's say Suite on HANA. You have heard about it. SRM on HANA. All of them are the solution which were built on the top of this ABAP on HANA technology. So SRM on HANA, CRM on HANA, LM on HANA, LM on HANA, HCM on HANA, ECC on HANA also. So they had given the connector of the 7.4 version which was used. Okay. So overall, what is ABAP on HANA? So overall, ABAP on HANA is the technology, and Suite on HANA which was built is the solution, or you can say product also, which was built on the top of this technology, but this over the period of time, what SAP realized that this suite of HANA was not a big success. This was not a good product. So suite on HANA was not a big success. Not a big success. Why? So in case of suite on HANA, lots of tables were still following the row store concept. So row store concepts, lots of secondary indexes were still being used. So this solution was not a big success. So since this solution was not a big success for SAP, that is why in 2015, SAP came with another solution. SAP came with another solution in 2015, and they named it S4 HANA. S4 HANA. Which version we are using? Mukul, which version we are using? S4 HANA version we are using, right? What is S4 HANA? S4 HANA is the solution, right? Built by SAP, launched in 2015. Why? Because its previous version, Suite on HANA, which was not good, not much efficient, so they created its updated version by removing all these problems on which technology? ABAP on HANA technology, right? ABAP on HANA technology. So very important for HANA. Even if we are working on it, we don't know what it is, right? We just tell to everyone that we are working on S4 HANA, but do we know, do we all have enough proper definition for it? No, definitely not. So that is the most crucial part. What is this S4 HANA? S here simply means simplified. Simplified. 4 is fourth generation. So your fourth generation product was already Suite on HANA, but they created its extended version and more updated version, and they named it simplified fourth generation. So earlier, all these things, all these lots of products where different resolutions were there, they combined them together into this S4 HANA. So simplified fourth generation. So SAP launched its fourth generation software in 2015, which was named S4 HANA, which only and only works on the HANA DB. Is it clear?
Yes.
Right. So if you are working on S4 HANA simplified fourth generation version, then it will only support on HANA database. So overall, the simplest definition of S4 HANA is a solution which was built on the top of ABAP and HANA technology, and which only and only works on HANA database, right? HANA database. So this S4 HANA system is available on both on-premise and cloud as well. So from the last year, they started to promote the cloud part only. They have simply they are requesting their every customer to only use the cloud version instead of going for on-premise system. So last year 2023, I'm talking about 2024. Okay, so over the period of time, lots of changes are being made, but for our training, on-premise is more than sufficient. We don't need to go for that cloud. That is some separate RESTful application programming model. So for on-premise system setup, we are required to use our own hardware, right? Hardware setup, and we also need a separate basis team to manage it, right? We also need that thing. Is it clear? That is all
Yes.
S/4HANA is all about. Its architecture, HANA database architecture is a little bit complex, which we will cover tomorrow. Okay. So how was the